Hi everyone and welcome back to One Autistic Person. This is the 23rd video in a 50 video series that I'm doing going through the statements and questions of the Autism Quotient, which is often used as a pre-screening tool as part of the autism assessment. The autism assessment criteria requires the people doing the diagnosis to look at our traits as a deficit. And what I wanted to do with these videos is to look at those traits in either a benefit or as a positive. And if we're unable to find a benefit or a positive from it, what mitigations and adjustments we can put in place to ensure that we're able to manage those traits effectively. So what I'd really like is for everybody to comment and tell each other how they deal with their autistic traits, whether that is that they see them as a benefit and a positive, or any mitigations or adjustments that they put in place. I think it's a great thing for us to share our experiences and how we see these things, because it can sometimes feel a bit overwhelming, and I'd love people to share their experiences. On this video, I'd just like to give a few apologies to start off with. First of all, my glasses. I'm having to wear my glasses at the moment because I've been having headaches quite a bit. So I've had to put them on even though they annoy me, but I'm still learning about the lighting, so there's quite a lot of glare, so I apologise for that. And also I'm going to be separating this video into 3 sections, and there's going to be some editing involved that I've not done before, so I apologise if that's a bit clunky. So sorry about that beforehand. So this, as I say, is the 23rd question, and it is that I notice patterns in things all of the time. And for me, this is a definitely agree. As I say, I'm going to cut this video into 3 different sections: the good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's first of all look at the good. So anybody who's watched my videos, certainly these ones, you'll see that quite often the benefits that I talk about are often work related, because shockingly, I thought a lot of my autistic traits actually were a negative at work. And apart from sort of social interactions, quite often my autism is very helpful within my work environment, because I work in a very analytical role in a lot of ways, and this is where that is really beneficial. So first of all, from a numbers perspective, my job requires us to notice trends and to act on those, and it's been really helpful with things like forecasting, because it allows me to look previously, and my brain seeking out those patterns automatically sees those patterns, so I can very quickly make decisions based on sort of previous patterns that I can see. So I can see that these items sell well in this shop at this time of year, and my brain will hold on to that information, and when I see that that's the case, that it's the opposite in another shop, that it allows me to be able to make decisions based on where stock should go, resources, that type of thing regarding that. And it's like it holds that information in my brain until I see the thing that needs to be related for that pattern, and then my brain goes, remember this. And it does this with all sorts of things. Like I watch TV shows, and 5 series is down the road, it'll be like, oh, I remember that. You know, I've been watching 𝐸𝐺𝐻𝐿 recently, which is by the same people who do American Horror Story. There've been links, very subtle links, and my brain automatically picks up on that and goes, oh, there's a pattern there. So that's really positive. From sort of report reading and looking at investigations, really, really good, because I can look at multiple documents and my brain will automatically go, there's a pattern here, this happened before, or this is similar to that, and my brain will automatically go, you need to look back at this previous report or this previous part of the investigation, and I'm able to hold a lot of information in my head when I'm looking at reports. What I feel is when I'm looking at things objectively, pattern seeking is really positive, because it allows me to look at things from a distance and not to have to make quick decisions, but it does allow me to make decisions based on looking at a bigger picture, because of the fact I've noticed that smaller detail and the patterns related to it. It allows me to then ask further questions and delve deeper into things, because I've noticed that initial pattern. It's also really helpful when I'm feeling overwhelmed. If I'm outside, I can often see patterns, as I've said about like with number plates, but I can see that in all sorts of things. So I can sort of see how my brain will automatically go, how many red cars are going past if I'm feeling overwhelmed in a situation. That's just one example. It might be how many people have walked past a situation that I'm sat in. How many dogs are there that people have taken for a walk, whatever, that my brain will seek those patterns out, and it soothes me. And that goes the same when I'm overstimulated or understimulated. So like the lights behind me, quite often I'll look for patterns in that. I have those in my front room as well, and the same with, I have a lava lamp, and it allows me to, I look at it and see how many small and how many big lumps of wax there are and things like that. So it's very soothing if I focus on those things, but it can sometimes have some bad effects, which I will talk about in a second when it comes to those. But definitely from a work environment, being able to find patterns generally is good. There are some issues when it comes to social interactions, which I'll get to in a minute, when it's personally about me and something that I'm being subjectively involved in. But from an objective perspective, it allows me to be able to look at things and see patterns straight away. My brain automatically seeks that pattern out, so it allows me to then go look back at this, and my brain will automatically tell itself where it was. I will remember, so it's an aid to memory where that thing was. It will automatically go look back at that previous report from 5 years ago, or whatever it is that my brain's doing at that point. So it's like my brain's holding information enough for me to be able to go, there's a pattern here, then find it. And it allows me to often come to quite good outcomes with things, and for me to give conclusions to things that maybe other people haven't. So it's a real positive in my view when it comes to work. So that was the good. Let's now have a look at the bad. So with the previous one, with the good things, I looked at work first. So let's have a look at work first in this. So social interactions at work. So as I was saying, objectively, this is a really good thing for me. Subjectively, it's not. So if I'm involved in a social interaction, I can quite often pick up on patterns that are not there. So I'll think that somebody is acting a certain way because of a certain thing that happened previously. And unless I clarify that, and there is my mitigation, it's that I need to clarify, and I need to be the one that says, I'm not sure about this interaction. I noticed this last time, and this has happened this time. Are these things linked? And sort of have that conversation around why did you say that, or why did that happen? I felt that it was this, but I may be wrong. So I just want to get some clarity on the situation, if that's okay. So yeah, I can then, if I don't talk about it, I can overthink it and start putting patterns in place when they're really not there. My brain will automatically seek that pattern out. So sometimes it puts things there that are not there, especially when it comes to social interactions, because I find them so confusing and chaotic anyway. So that's a negative. And like I say, the mitigation is that I just ask for clarity. I communicate, I talk, I ask. I don't just assume, because I will automatically assume. My brain will automatically put a pattern there, and I'm aware of that now. I never used to be, and these patterns sort of built in my head and just got worse and worse. Or if I can't speak to the person about it, I'll speak to somebody externally about it, my boss or somebody outside of the equation, and say, this thing happened, what do you think about it? So getting some more input that can break that cycle of looking for a pattern and seeking those patterns, and getting some further information about it, which is what I'm doing when I'm looking at things objectively. So it's turning it from a subjective situation to an objective situation. The thing with what I was saying about it helping with my sensory overload, so it can actually make me feel overwhelmed if I hyper-focus too much. So like I say about these lights, sometimes I will focus on them for too long, and then I will become too oversensitized to it. Or if I am out and I'm counting how many people walk past with wearing a blue item of clothing, that I can then become obsessed with it, and my brain can become too overloaded for it and keep looking for it rather than it be positive for me. It can become overwhelming. So I need to change something in the environment then. So if I can get out of the environmental situation there, that's the way of doing it. Again, it's making that change and changing the environment so it's no longer become obsessive with me, because it can become obsessive seeking of patterns. And as much as it can be soothing for me, I need to know when to pull away, and it's a short-term thing for me, not a long-term thing, and being aware of that. So they're the two main bad things, and the biggest one is the social interactions. They're trying to put patterns into social interactions because sometimes they just do not have a pattern. There's no reason for why people are doing things. It's just the fact that they've said something else again, and I've put a link to them. So breaking that cycle is really important, of not ruminating, not automatically assuming, and not thinking that if I see a pattern, that pattern's automatically true. So with that said, Let's go on to the bit that's going to be really difficult for me, and I apologise for this. I will probably be shivering and creeping around all over because it is something that I really, really do find an ugly part of my sensory experience of the world. So this is the really ugly when it comes to pattern seeking. So this actually isn't specifically an autistic trait, but I do believe it is linked intrinsically to my seeking of patterns, and it is the fact that I suffer from something called trypophobia. Now, trypophobia or trypophobia, depends on how you pronounce it, is a phobia or a dislike or disgust. I would say disgust is probably the best way of describing it. It's a really adverse reaction to seeing repetitive geometric shapes, generally circles and round things, but it can be any shape. I also get it with wavy things as well, but majority of it is the repetitiveness of circles. You can also get it with things like honeycomb and things like that, so it's that geometric repetitiveness of shapes. I get it with things like coral, I get it with sponges, I get it with like a lotus plant. So a lotus plant is round and it's got the round holes in it. Quite often people, when like holes where spots have been and things like that, when people like seeing like the spots that have been popped and things like that, no, really not good. It starts at the top of my head, feels like it's going out, and then my whole body, and I feel I've actually physically vomited because of it, and it can actually put me out of place and make me feel very poorly for a few days if I don't moderate it quite quickly. Now, the reason why I wanted to say this is that, like I say, it's not an actual autistic trait, but I do think it is related to the sensory experiences that we have and being overwhelmed by our senses, and this is definitely a sight thing, obviously. And I think that quite a few people may suffer from this in some form, whether it is specifically the repetitiveness of holes or that things can make us feel sick and really make us feel very... I get it with textures as well, but this is, for me, this is a major issue because it happens quite often. And what I wanted to do was share some of the ways that I manage this, because when it first started, I had no idea how to manage it, and it can make, like I say, make me feel ill for quite some time. So for me, some of the ways that I deal with it is I will meditate. So I will center myself and push down on whatever I'm sat on, close my eyes, then relax, and then just try and think of nothing or think of something that's calming for me. That can sometimes help, and if I get it quick enough, that will work. I will do that. If I've been overexposed to it, it often doesn't. So if I've looked at it for too long, then it won't. This tends to be if it's just been a quick thing. The other thing is distraction, and again, this doesn't work if I've been if it's been too much for me and I've seen too much of it. But I'll go and watch The Sims or read or just do something that's distracting. I also find that putting music on and moving around helps because it stops that feeling in my body so much, but I can feel quite weak after this happens. So I can feel quite shaky, so I might not want to move around as much, but I might move around in my chair and move, sort of stretch myself and stroke my skin. That's the other thing as well, stroke my bare skin and sort of do this to try and distract my brain from thinking about it. The other thing is something that is cold, something that is flat, and something that is smooth. Now, my laptop is made out of metal, and this is a really good thing for me to have. So if it comes on the TV, and my laptop's usually in front of me, and it's often closed. So even if it isn't, I will close it at this point. Close my eyes and just stroke the coldness of that metal and that smoothness, and keep pushing down slightly on it, not much because obviously it's my laptop, I don't want to break it, but just feeling that smoothness and the coldness and not allowing myself to think of anything else, just focus on that. That is relatively good for me if I have seen it for some time, because I think it's the feeling of the smoothness and the coldness. It's giving me a temperature, and it's giving me a feeling of something. That touch element is quite good. I'm sorry, I'm feeling very itchy because we're talking about this. It's a little bit like when people mention fleas and stuff like that. It's kind of like I start feeling it. And then the other thing that I do if I'm really dysregulated from it is cold water. So if I put as cold as I can possibly get it, fill up a sink and put my hands in it for like 30 seconds at least, maybe a bit longer. Close my eyes and focus on it. Don't move my hands. Just allow the water to be on my hands. That tends to reset myself. If that doesn't work, then I tend to just have to lay there and just let it happen, but also really kind of distract myself and maybe do cycles of doing the different things, doing the medication, doing something that distracts me, doing the stroking of something cold and smooth, and then the cold water. I have had to do it like 3 or 4 times, just that whole cycle of doing all of those things for me to actually for it to actually stop. Like I say, it can last for days afterwards if I don't get it in time. It is a really debilitating thing, and I don't think people understand how bad it is, because I think some people get it and it's just, it makes them shudder. This actually can make me physically sick. So I wanted to put this in there, and it is going to make the video quite long, I think, but I just wanted to mention it to people. If you do suffer from it, first of all, I really sympathise with you. It's a horrible thing to feel, but hopefully if you if they're helpful for you, then that's fantastic, and it was worth the video going over. So there you go. There's the good, the bad, and the ugly about pattern seeking. Most of it for me is positive. That it's mainly the same as it is with anything with me. Social interactions and ruminating makes it a big problem, and trying to find patterns, or my brain trying to find patterns that are not there. But from a work environment, it's been really positive for me, and it allows me to navigate the world, I think, quite well, to be able to put things in there. It's just when I'm wrong is basically the problem. When my brain's putting patterns there that then influence my behaviour or my thought process, then it's a matter of checking myself and communicating with others to make sure that that's the case. And when it comes to trypophobia, just brute force to stop it from happening and to stop it from taking over. Anyway, as I say with all of these videos, please comment. The biggest thing is commenting. I would love you to like and subscribe, obviously, but commenting would be fantastic so that people can share their experiences. That's what this is all about for me, is that I'm sharing my experience, and I hope others will share their experiences as well. So thank you very much for watching this. I hope the editing isn't too bad, and I will see you in the next one, hopefully. Thanks. Bye.